right, good evening. I'd like to call to order tonight's Planning Commission meeting, April 18, 2022. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Roll call, sorry. Roll call. Here.
Cottle,
Here.
Yannick,
Here.
Hallett,
Here.
Chrisman.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so I don't believe we have any citizens here wishing to address the Planning Commission. Okay. Next item on the agenda is minute approval from our meeting from February 22nd, 2022. Do I have a motion to approve?
Yeah, I motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
A second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, agenda items. The first item is comprehensive plan survey.
Okay, I've heard back from most of our planning commissioners regarding this survey. If you'd like to take just a quick look, it's page 5 and 6. If you have any comments, let me know. I'll make the final changes, but we do plan to send this out with the commission's approval tonight. I plan to get it out and live either by the end of this week or early next. And this is the survey that we had discussed at our February meeting, and we went line by line. So we'll have a small cover letter going with it so that everyone understands what the purpose is for, what we're asking of them, and then we'll go out.
Okay. So not so much about the questions here in the survey, but regarding about the question whether or not this is a walking town and so forth. As far as crosswalks, why is it that most of the streets don't have like a crosswalk? I mean,
Can you give
my
me
wife,
an example?
my wife and I were walking this weekend, and I think there is a crosswalk. I forget this street right here, but everywhere else there isn't like a.
So you'll have a crosswalk here at Fayette. You'll have the main crosswalk Jefferson and Washington. You do have the crosswalk at Madison Hunting Path and Washington Street. But then when you get to Green Hill, like they don't put the crosswalk across the roads there. Or can't recall if Haymarket Station has one in the front of theirs.
How about even the entrance and exits to
Haymarket Station does have one.
to businesses?
Since it's a entry and exit off the road, they wouldn't have. It's,
They
I don't
wouldn't?
believe it's a standard for VDOT to put one. It's
Okay.
just when you have a street intersection.
Because I was telling my wife, you know, she just goes, she thinks that she has right of way, and I'm like, hey, it takes a second because there is no crosswalk, but somebody's not paying attention, right?
Yeah. The entries and exits into the private businesses, those won't have crosswalks generally.
Okay.
It's mainly the intersections.
Is that a good thing, considering that?
What do you follow, VDOT's?
We follow VDOT standards.
Okay.
VDOT accepts our roads and maintains them, so we follow VDOT standards.
Okay.
So if everyone is good on the survey, I will take care of getting that out to everybody, and you can encourage your neighbors to fill it out and submit it back in. We'll have the online option on the town website. We'll post it to the Facebook, but we'll also send it out as a hard copy if people prefer that, and give them instructions on how to submit it.
All right. Next agenda item is zoning ordinance amendment.
Yes. So when we do zoning text amendments, and since we did such a large one where it was the entirety of the chapter, sometimes things come up that we inadvertently modified and we need to clean up, or there's just general cleanup items. So over the last 5 or so months of working with the zoning ordinance, I've identified the following items that need to be modified and cleaned up. So I'll just run through them real quickly. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask, and then I'm going to request that we look at our calendars to set a public hearing date to pull more information together, hear from the public, and notify everyone of what we're looking to do. So the first one is to modify the retail use personal services. This is a newer definition that we combined a previous personal services and a retail use. In it, what I recognized is that the day spas should probably be included in personal services here instead of excluded. We do not have it defined separately, so I have changed that. You'll see it bolded and highlighted in that definition use. Number 2 is referencing the use table. So previously we had allowed for personal services in the I-1 zoning district. Again, personal services are listed in the definition right above it. So I am requesting that we modify the use table to include personal services back in the I-1 district. That was inadvertently removed when we went through the update. Number 3 is to remove the mobile food unit use in the conservation district, the C1. Right now we have mobile food unit allowed in every district through B1, B2, TC, I1, and C1. I do not find that it would be an appropriate use in the C1. We don't generally have any land that would lean itself to doing this productively with street access. We have one property, it's private property. So modifying this to remove the mobile food unit. The next item is section 58-15.2. When this got passed through, it was left with a note to go back and add regulations, and that slipped through the cracks. We did not go add those regulations yet in the C1. So I've put together items A through H to add the regulations for development within the C1. So it talks about, first one, needing to connect to municipal sewer systems for new structures, and that individual sewage disposal systems are prohibited. Front setbacks are to be within 10 feet of any street can be located to within 10 feet of any street right-of-way. Side setbacks shall have the same regulations as front yards when abutting a street right-of-way. There are no side regulations when abutting adjoining similar conservation use. There shall be a side yard of 25 feet or more when abutting a residential district. Rear shall have the same regulations as side yards. Height, permitted uses in the C1 district may be erected up to 25 feet in height from grade, building not more than 2 stories above grade. Chimneys, flues, cooling towers, flagpoles, radio or communication towers, or their accessory facilities not normally occupied by workers are excluded from this limitation. Parapet walls may be permitted per the building code above the height of the building on which the walls rest. Coverage regulations, the maximum buildable lot coverage in the C1 district shall not exceed 50% of the total lot area. Development shall not be within the RPA, the Resource Protection Area. Development shall not remove any pre-existing wetlands or marshes. So again, this is our conservation district. It runs primarily along the railroad tracks in North Fork Creek. So these regulations were put in place to further protect that area that we're looking to utilize as the conservation district. So these are the few items that I have right now for this zoning ordinance cleanup. Do you guys have any questions or additions?
Is day spa gonna be sufficient?
I find that it will be. We can always pull it out and create a separate definition and tag it as day spa here and then have like further defined as. Is that the preference?
Well, I mean, is it gonna be sufficient for a gym or something like that?
So I find that gym will fit under physical fitness studios.
Okay, so are we gonna be adding that to the I-1?
So how it reads is in our use table, you have that graphical shown.
Okay.
And what it is it says retail use, personal services, and all of this definition under number 1 is what's covered under personal services. And it says in
Okay, the care of a
here,
person, so that it would fall there.
yes.
Okay, physical fitness, okay.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm good. I'm
dance
good then.
studios,
I'm good
physical
then.
fitness studios are in there.
I missed it.
So Emily, question for you.
Yes.
Conservation district, what are we trying to conserve?
It's mostly in the floodplain.
Mostly back there is in the floodplain, and you do have RPAs, the resource protection areas, you have a lot of wetlands as well.
Yeah.
And so what we're trying to do is that area around North Fork where you have the floodplain and these RPAs, we're trying to protect that from development so that it ultimately, we're working with our Chesapeake Bay Preservation Act regulations, and we're trying to really preserve and conserve that land.
Speaking of that,
In the C1, just real quick, in the C1, the only true uses that we identify are greenhouses can be built back there, and I believe there was one type of a utility that could be built back there. Can you pull it up?
just because it suddenly just occurred to me, because it's an issue in the county. Do we have anybody analyzing TMDL for stuff that we do in town? Because I think technically we're statutorily required to do that, or is the county required to do that?
Let me follow up with you. I know we do various different types of reporting, and I cannot recall if in our latest reporting that is included in there.
Because we're required to do, we're required to review TMDLs as part of the Chesapeake Bay Act.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally jumped on the county about this a couple of weeks ago. It never occurred to me whether we were responsible or whether they were. But to my understanding, they have not been reviewing the impact on TMDL for development in the county since at least 2019. And I don't want us to get wrapped around the axle with either DEQ or EPA.
I do not either. We most recently had an audit with Chesapeake Bay. DEQ came out and a representative gave us an audit back in, would have been 2020, I believe, could have been 2021. And I believe we covered TMDLs, the total maximum daily loads that has to do with Chesapeake Bay Preservation Act.
Phosphorus and all that sort of thing.
Nitrogen, things like
Nitrogen.
that. So I will look into what our current reporting system is. I believe Katie also assists with some of that review and discussion.
My guess is we've probably turned it over to whoever does our ENS, which puts us a step above the county as far as I'm concerned. As long as we're doing it independently, then I'm good. Then I'm not going to worry about it.
Make sure it's done properly. Okay.
Last thing I want is a letter from DEQ putting us in violation. I think that was part of our ENS contract. I'm pretty sure.
I'll check.
If you can just double check, just to put me at ease.
Does anybody have any other questions on the cleanup items? If there's no questions, I did include at the bottom of page 8 a motion for the Planning Commission to schedule. I guess, Bob, correct me if I'm wrong. Do we need to initiate first?
We have to have an initiation motion first, yes.
Okay.
Because otherwise, statutorily it has to be initiated before you can schedule the public hearing. In which case I would move the Planning Commission initiate zoning text amendments 1 through 4 as detailed in the April 18th, 2022 agenda.
Do I have a second?
Yeah, a second.
Want a roll call vote?
Yes, please.
Weir,
Aye.
Cottle,
Yes.
Yannick,
Yes.
Howard.
Now you can schedule a public hearing.
Okay. So now there's a motion on the bottom of page 8, if everyone's calendar looks okay, for May 16th. That's our next meeting date, and I would hold it that day at 7 p.m. That works for everyone.
Would you like to make the motion?
Yeah, I move the planning commission schedule a public hearing for the proposed zoning ordinance revisions for May 16th, 2022 at 7 p.m.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Roll call,
Roll call.
please. Yeah.
Ware,
Aye.
Cottle,
Yes.
Denning,
Yes.
Halleck.
Yeah.
Okay. Old business, I'll just walk everybody through a couple updates that are going on right now in town. As you can see, the hotel is open and operational. They will have their ribbon cutting on the 21st, so that's this coming Thursday at 5 p.m. The restaurant's open in the evenings, coffee shops open throughout the day. They also have breakfast. Over here at Van Meter, they are, I don't know, most of you live down on that end, so you guys have seen it. They have put up several of the sticks of townhouses, so they're moving right along there with that project. Further down here, Crossroads Village is well underway with their grading plan and doing their stormwater infrastructure. They are getting finalized on submitting the rest of their bonds here, so once all those bonds are accepted in the next week or so, they will be allowed to go to the building department and receive building permits for several of their structures that they will be putting up. We are also working on processing the Lidl site plan, so they're coming in and they're doing a site plan specifically for their pad site, as well as the Taco Bell site plan. So Katie, our town engineer, and I are working through those items. We are also working with Robinson Paradise. We had previously worked on that application and that site plan with the Planning Commission. We have a couple of comments from VDOT that need to be addressed, so we will be addressing those. Should anything change drastically, we'll bring it back to the Planning Commission, but it should be pretty standard with VDOT comments there. Are there any questions on any of those projects or any other ongoing projects in town?
Go ahead.
2, 1, where do we stand with the violations on Robinson's Paradise?
Oh, some work had been done last week on Robinson's Paradise with a structure back there without any proper permitting. And so Prince William County building official has come out and posted the property. So that has been taken care of. The owner's been updated and notified. I'm working with the county on this as there's a little bit of a confusion regarding who actually owns the property at the moment. They were working on going to closing that week, and some work had been done prior to closing. So we're working through that small hiccup there.
And the other one is, as we spoke about earlier, could you update everybody on the corner of Fayette and Jefferson Street, the abandoned
Yes.
structure?
So the corner of Jefferson and Fayette Street, as you head towards the railroad tracks, like you're going over to Gainesville, Wegmans area, there is a white house that is boarded up on that corner. Mr. Pat Cowan owns the property and was previously working on a site plan. He has recorded there's 2 lots and he's turned them so that they front on Fayette Street. And so he is wrapping up the comments with the VDOT. VDOT comments he received with his engineer, they should be resubmitting to VDOT here shortly to finalize that site plan. It'll be 2 single-family homes, 1 on each lot, and they will have driveways on Fayette Street. So we're looking forward to that.
What's the status with Starbucks at the Crossroads?
That was ultimately denied by the town council.
Lidl must not have been too upset because
There was a brief pause that we didn't hear from them. I'm not sure what linked that together, if there was a link, but they are working with us again now on a site plan. So
Right.
That's all I have for old business, unless there's any more questions.
No.
Great. New business items. Trying to think if there's. I don't believe we have any new business items. We are expecting that at some point the Popeyes will bring in their site plan for their pad over at Crossroads Village. The Meladon Group has purchased the corner property, which includes the Chick-fil-A, the bank, and CVS. We do expect that at some point they'll bring in a site plan there as well and do some modifications, possibly put up one of the other buildings that was previously designed for that parcel. So we'll work with them at that time, but that's all I have for new business.
All right, ARB updates. Mr.
So
Hammond.
we took a look at we took a tour of the firehouse on, Emily, I'm drawing a blank, the number of the property.
It's, we've looked at the firehouse, which is 14941 Washington Street, and we looked at the bungalow property, which is 6707 Jefferson Street.
And right now, we just don't have enough information to fully make a vote on as far as what can be saved, as far as if it's labeled as historic versus doing a full demolition. And we're just trying to make absolute sure that if we do that demolition, that we're not violating any historic, how do I want to say it?
We're not, the board is taking an effort to analyze all the historic resources and look at the property to ensure that if the decision's made to demolish it, that they're doing the best that they can in their decision-making, following our guidelines and our zoning ordinance. So right now, the applicant was going to bring back a structural engineer's report regarding the firehouse, and if any of the additions could be removed, what that would look like in terms of structural safety for the building. And then with the bungalow, there was the straw vote to demolish it, and so they'll be talking about that at Wednesday night's meeting.
And then the other thing, Marchant had a fence that we had to approve, and that was anonymously voted yes. And I think that was the only other thing with ARB.
What was it?
Yeah.
Mr. Weir, town council updates, please.
Well, let me give you a couple easy ones first. RFP for the sidewalk is going out next week.
Next week?
Hopefully we get some bids on that. Budget work session is tomorrow? Great. I thought it was Wednesday. Oh, well. So if anybody's interested in the budget, we'll be here tomorrow night going over it. The county has finally gotten in touch with us late and soliciting comments on various chapters of the county's comp plan. The two that we're looking at right now are the mobility chapter and the land use chapter. I'll be brutally honest with you. They're both a mess. I have very little confidence in the manner in which the county is doing this right now. Emily and I are taking a look at some stuff on the west end. We'll probably bring it into you guys to take a look at next month. But I'm becoming increasingly frustrated because I think it impacts the area around town. I'll give you one small example which sort of encapsulates everything that's wrong. Part of the land use chapter is the addition of what's called the Haymarket Activity Center, which is centered around the hospital and extends to this side of 66, encompasses everything from Amazon to Walmart to Home Depot to the two hotels down at Antioch, the hospital on the other side of the road, the park and ride lot, everything over to Old Carolina, and then everything west of the hospital up to the Rural Crescent boundary. They've labeled it activity center, and they have all these plans for it. Problem is, it's already full, or it's already got site plans. And they provided us, did Alex provide you with the activity center report, or did I forward that to you? I think I did.
I think I received it.
They have a combined report that they gave to us. There was a small group Zoom meeting with the lead planner on this, and they gave us, I think it was a 24, 25-page PowerPoint presentation. It was a combination of staff comments and contractor comments, contractor analysis. And to be quite frankly, I've never seen a report that so contradicts itself from one page to the next. It's absolutely amazing. Page 5, they have listed as vacant land where the Home Depot sits. They have Eleanor and Lawrence Park still listed as a park, even though the Park Service has gotten rid of it, but then they include it as an industrial area. They note that south of 66, where the Amazon area is, there's a light industrial area. They also note that additional data centers are anticipated in that area. Well, they're not. I mean, Amazon's already built out. But then you go to page 19, and they go, there's no presence or need for industrial or flex in this area. Well, if there's no need or presence of it, how do you explain the Amazon data center? They say the bike trail in town's not done. Last time I checked, it's out there. They say hotel and restaurant uses are not likely in the corridor. They just approved 2. And then after saying that there's no presence or need on one page, on the very next page they go, the existing light industrial is performing very well. So I've got no faith in this. And it's a story that is repeated in many of the changes that they're proposing countywide, and a lot of this has been generated by something that they have deemed small CPAs. And what they did last May was they encouraged property owners within the county to submit CPAs that aren't CPAs to change their land use on their particular parcels or agglomeration of parcels, and have that done through the county's comprehensive plan, overall comprehensive plan process. The problem that I have with that is that there's no statutory authority for it. You either go through a CPA process or you don't. And a CPA process requires public hearings, analysis by staff, and I don't see any of that getting done, so I suspect we're going to have to comment on that. The other thing is everything in there is a moving target. The maps are constantly changing. Much the same can be said for the mobility chapter. I've got 3 maps that came in over a period of 6 weeks. Roads appear, roads disappear, roads reappear. They took out the Rollins Ford extension from Wellington to Linton Hall because the data center didn't want it there, because they didn't want this interchange to help with cross-flow traffic just because it was inconvenient for them. They're playing around with the Bi-County Parkway. You know, the Bi-County Parkway is not in. The Bi-County Parkway is in. We took the Bi-County Parkway out. Well, if the Bi-County Parkway calls for a 4-lane divided highway with a shared use trail, and what you're proposing is a 4-lane divided highway with a shared use trail, I don't care what the hell you call it, it's the Bi-County Parkway. So all of this stuff is going to impact us. They're talking about punching an extension of Heathcote over to Antioch, which is a scenic byway. So you'd be putting a 4-lane thoroughfare out to a 2-lane country byway with a substandard bridge with bad sight lines. Does that encourage the county to then build a new intersection? Does that encourage the Buckland bypass again? There's a lot of stuff here to unpack, and they're not giving us any time to unpack it, which I suspect is intentional. But in order for us to get some cogent comments in, I think I'm going to throw a little sand in the gears and try and slow them down, so that we can put something together, have it reviewed by us, and submit a formal letter.
So basically, where the hospital, where that dead end is, they want to extend that all the way to Antioch?
Yeah, the problem is they have to go, I haven't told them this yet, although the Transportation Department knows it. VDOT has already informed them they can't run that road across that property because it's in a flood zone and will require building heath coat on top of a dam, and VDOT will not accept that as part of the road infrastructure. So even if they somehow manage to do it, my understanding is the road would have to be maintained by the county, as would the dam infrastructure. And then you've got all the new DAM legislation that's passed over the last couple of years, which is pretty intrusive and pretty expensive. I don't know who's doing the thinking down there. I'm getting the sense that contractors are running the show, and I'm not a big fan of contractors running the show, particularly when they have no local knowledge or no institutional knowledge. So I don't particularly have the time to be a pain in the butt to them, but I think given the impacts that we'll have on us from a traffic standpoint, and potentially a stormwater flooding impact on Flat Branch Creek, depending on what they do or what they approve, I think we're going to have to stick our nose in it. We've got the statutory authority to do it. Actually, we've actually got the responsibility to do it. So hopefully we'll have something at the next meeting. I'll get off my soapbox now.
Okay. All right, so it's time to adjourn unless there are any other discussion items. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you.
That was quick.
Yep.